welcome everybody to Papa Spice's Hot Takes with Hans and Harry. I am Papa Spice, and I'm here with my two boys, Hans and Harry, as the name implies.
We're the boys.
Yes, the Hot Takes crew is here to talk some pop culture with you. Hans, how you doing, buddy?
Good. Normally, I'd say happy Wednesday, but we're recording a little earlier today, so I can't say happy midweek. Still got one more day for that, but hanging in there. Just doing the whole work thing and trying to fit in as many TV shows and missed opportunities and shows. Been going back a lot on a bunch of stuff, and it's becoming very overwhelming.
There is quite a bit of content out there right now. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but Harry, how you doing, buddy? You're the reason we're recording a little early this week. Care to explain why?
Spoiler alert. Yeah. Talking about the content game and feeling overwhelmed, I am doing the Philadelphia Film Festival over the next 11 days. Now, I'm not seeing movies every day because I have a job and I have a life. But I will be seeing, I think, a movie, for about 8 of the 11 days. So I'm excited to share those on our next episode of what I saw to kind of give people hopefully some Oscar baity movies. It's the Philadelphia Film Festival. Just, it's not as prestigious as Toronto or Cannes or even the New York Film Festival, but there'll be some gems in there. So I'll share that. And luckily for Chris, we get to record on a Tuesday, so he'll be able to watch the Sixers tomorrow on Wednesday, and everything's going great with them. So nothing's wrong. Everything's good. It's going to be a wonderful game.
Yeah. Nothing, no drama at all going on.
I think we should have just recorded on Wednesday to spare you, but I'm watching French Dispatch tomorrow. That is one of the first movies on the list.
Nice.
So.
That's one cool. I'm definitely looking forward to. So I'm a little jelly there.
Come on
okay.
down.
Yeah. So just a minor trip. What we are here to talk about tonight is what we're watching. So we're going to go over a couple TV series and a movie that we watched recently. And, we'll go in depth with those. As always, spoiler warning, we're going to be digging into each of these and talking spoilers. So if there's any topic that you haven't seen yet, hit that pause button, go watch it, come back, and then give us a listen or a watch. So we're going to start out on the movie side first, and we're going to start out with Halloween Kills, the latest in the franchise, the Halloween / Michael Myers franchise. I mean, it's I know there was one movie, sans Michael, but for the most part, he's in all of them. And oh boy, this sure was a movie. So let's start out with the positives from my point of view here. Anyway, I thought the score was fantastic. John Carpenter, he had a little help doing the score here, but he changed up the main theme a little bit, kind of did a remix, which is good because even though the original dun, 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 that it's iconic, but you can only hear it so many times, man. So I'm glad that he switched it up, and it sounded really good. The remix was pretty fire. Body count was high, and there were some solid kills. Hey, look, if you're going to see a slasher movie, that's important.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm glad that I'm glad Michael went on a rampage, and I'm glad they had some pretty unique kills in there. Those were both served to give me my primary enjoyment with this movie because there wasn't much else. And I thought the concept of the plot was good. It was just poor execution. The concept being the town finally gathers together and says, we're not going to take it anymore. A la Twisted Sister.
We're not gonna take it.
And, they kind of form a bit of a lynch mob to go after Michael and take the fight to him, as opposed to just, waiting around to be killed and added to that body count. Unfortunately, those are the only positives I had. Did you guys have any other thoughts or positives for Halloween Kills?
I think I saw like the first half of the first one, at least the one from 2018 that came out, and I think I fell asleep during it. I never really had the desire to go back and watch it. From my understanding, like this has nothing like it basically retconned everything Halloween until this point, right? Like
So
like H2O, that one didn't count, and like
LL baby,
it
let's
goes-
go.
in this version, it goes the original Halloween, then Halloween 2018, and then Halloween Kills. So like
Okay.
anything from like Halloween 2 forward and the H2O timeline, none of that existed.
Okay. I don't think I've seen Halloween. Like, I don't think I've seen any other Halloween except like the first one and the Rob Zombie one, which I
Okay.
actually really enjoy. And I like the first, like the Rob Zombie one. I agree the second one is a little wacky, but I mean it's a horror franchise, and Rob Zombie's not really the most stable mind. But I think with this, like this didn't feel like like a horror movie. It felt like more like an action movie. And it just I was not entertained. Like I agree the score was cool, but like the first 10 minutes I tried to like take notes on it and say like where I like was mentally at watching it, and about halfway through, like maybe 30 minutes through, I stopped taking notes because I'm like I'm going to either remember stuff like because of being how bad it was, or I'm just not going to care. And I don't want to, like, whenever I'm watching any movie, I don't want that to happen. I think like is Anthony Michael Hall in the first one, the one from 2018, or does he just show up?
He is not in
He's
that one.
not in the 2018.
Are half of these people, because they just look, it's like this town is the dumbest town in the entire world because they have like this I almost said a bad word, but they they have like this stuff go on, and like now they're just like fighting like why are they showing up with bats and everything to like, and one and
We're
one
going in,
person has-
baby. Let's go.
one person has like an iron to fight Michael Myers, like it has one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen, like kills in a movie, is when he kills the doctor nurse or whatever she, like he kicks the car door and she shoots herself. I just
It's
got
inventive.
yeah, but it sure did. But like I don't like, at one point Michael Myers becomes like a hand-to-hand combat expert. Like I always thought like he walked around with a knife and stabbed people, but then he takes on a whole town by basically like somehow like mastering hand-to-hand combat. And I didn't know he was that quick. Like he's fast. And and he's apparently immortal too. Like I don't I just didn't get it. Like and I don't know if that's like how he is from like the whole like series. Like he's supposed to be evil. Like that's, you know, we hear
Evil
about
incarnate.
it through the whole, yeah, we hear about it through the whole damn movie about evil. And like even Jamie Lee Curtis says like he's not a man. Like I always thought he was flesh and blood, but he like that
He's
doesn't explain
not.
like just why didn't anyone like shoot him in the head, or like, oh, I'm sorry, you did, but that's the whole point of the whole movie, because Will Patton earlier as a cop didn't want to shoot him in the head or something. I don't know. I lost focus, but
He missed the shot.
he missed a shot. Yeah. And I'm like, whatever. It made me really mad because I wanted to like it. And like, I heard a lot of people like raving about it. And then when I watch, I'm like, I don't like why, like, it felt like a very, like, I feel like this scene that you could have put this at the end of like the first one or the beginning of the third one, if they make a third one, which I'm sure they are.
Oh yeah.
And you didn't need a whole movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, as much as I'm going to use a bad example, like The Hobbit, The Battle of Five Armies, that movie's like 2.5 hours long. That's one chapter in a book. You can easily make that a third of a movie, not a whole like length of a movie. And I feel like this could have been in there somewhere else. It got really weird, like really quick. So that's kind of, I don't know. This
Okay.
town
So those are your
sucks. Like, they are
positives.
the worst. This town is the worst town. Like, I don't understand. Like, obviously people are moving into this town and no one's catching on to like all this bad stuff that's just happening. And there's a rampant killer who just shows up every once in a while and killing
Well,
random
no.
people.
Here's the thing, because this ignores all those other movies. So technically there hasn't been an incident since like 1963 up until this
Oh,
night.
okay.
And this is the
78,
same
but
night
yeah.
as the Halloween 2018.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
oh yeah, 63 was the original killing, and then 78
Oh,
was,
okay.
yeah,
So this was
yeah.
all right. So the first one.
This
and
is
one
only
like,
technically the second time he's come back.
okay. So this one is like the same, pretty much like directly after the 2018 one.
Yes, all of it, this whole trilogy, because the next one is called Halloween Ends. It all
Ends.
takes place during one night.
Got it. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, glad I knew that.
Any positives for Halloween Kills?
Yeah, listen, I think Chris was watching this with my wife and me because my wife felt the same way he did. This town is the dumbest town ever. So she's never seen any of the Halloween movies. So trying to explain it, and then so I kind of came up with like the Fast and the Furious comparison, where it's like in the first one, like they're just kind of stealing cars and doing all this like Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that, and stealing DVD players. And then they kind of grow to be like superhuman and like these superheroes that are saving the world one day at a time, and relied upon. Yeah. So the other thing that I think Chris was getting at too is so in Michael Myers is born in 1957. He's 6 years old when he kills his sister, and then he gets put away, and then he comes back out in 78. And so he's like, what is that, 15 years later? So 60, he's like 21, give or take. Yeah. And now it's in 2018, and he's like 60 years old, murking dudes. He's just out there killing people. He's a savage. Like, just let that sink in. Think about the 60-year-olds in your life, and if you think they're going to be mass murderers.
We should be so lucky to have his stamina.
Seriously,
at age 60.
Yeah, I agree. Like the nice little throwback to 78 in the beginning of the movie, as you were talking about with positives, Greg. So let's try to stay positive here. Halloween theme still slaps. Then we get into like the Tommy Doyle stuff, and evil dies tonight, and he starts that chant, and it's just really weird. When he thinks that they see Michael Myers, and it's one of the guys from prison who's like a short, stocky, bald, poor man's Danny DeVito. And it's like, you're telling me you think this is Michael Myers? Michael Myers, I picture being 6'8" or 6'6". Like, it just doesn't add up to me. I thought this was like very COVID-y movie because like I felt like watching it, I was like, oh, maybe like this was like kind of changed because of COVID. And then we get to the hospital scene with the riot breaking out, and I was like, oh, they didn't care about any rules here. So I don't think that was the case at all. I also forgot to mention in the beginning, this movie made $50 million. What are you guys' thoughts on that? $50 million at the box office. This movie was released on NBC, which is, I think, how most of us watched it. I watched it that way.
Yeah, same.
Because I just didn't get a chance to go see it in theaters. Would have saw it in Dolby, but just, one of those things like we talked about, content. We're banging it out. Yeah, 50 mil. Like that's insane too. I mean, I get it. It's October. It's Halloween. Is coming up, but that's wild to me for the 50 mil.
I think it makes a little bit of sense. I'm sorry. Did you?
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Yeah,
okay.
Go.
The 2018 movie had some goodwill towards it. Most people.
Yeah, I like the first. I like the first one. It ends. I mean, spoilers, whatever. But like, it ends with like Judy Greer pretending to be this. Oh my God, Mom, I don't believe you, and then like flipping the script and being like, oh, she's in on it. Like, we got him. Right. But yeah, it was fine movie, but like that was a cool little twist ending there.
Right. So I think that probably lended some assistance to, people wanting to go out and see this. Also Peacock. I mean, I don't know how widespread it is. I mean, certainly it probably does not have the numbers of Disney Plus or HBO Max or anything, let alone Netflix. So, I don't know how many people watched it streaming. And the reasons you mentioned, like you said, it's a Halloween movie. Halloween's coming up. It's October, so
just surprising with Bond being out and The Last Duel, which both are much better movies than this. So kind of surprising to me. But I was gonna say too. I mean, I know we'll be talking about it later, but if you got NBC, it's because you need to watch Premier League games early in the morning. So that's the reason I own it. The only reason.
Nice.
So,
what did you have, Hans?
Like I first of all, I didn't even realize that was Anthony Michael Hall, because the thing last time I saw him in anything was The Dark Knight, and he was only in that for like a half minute.
Yeah.
And I don't think the last time I saw him, and I looked at the cast list afterwards, and I was like, oh, I think I looked at someone's notes in here, and they said Anthony Michael Hall, and I'm like, oh, that's him. And like, there's a lot of like good cast in here. Like Judy Greer is good. The one guy who I actually is and we're gonna probably like maybe circle back a little bit. If you guys, I forget his name. One of the mob people. Jesus, Lonnie. the guy whose kid, like, he's
Oh,
Robert
goodness.
Longstreet. Like, that guy, like, shows up and, like, he's actually in, like, Midnight Mass. He's in Haunting a Hill House, and he's, like, a really good actor. And I feel like this, like, movie used a lot of really good actors and just kind of wasted them. And on, like, a terrible script. And I know, like, Greg, you, like, I think you kind of had mentioned that, where it's just, like, it just, like, I can't think of any good things. And I'm like, and not coming from like I've said before, I'm not a horror fan, but like even from this like a movie fan, like I didn't feel scared or like tense during this whole movie because like things just happen and for no reason. Like why didn't Michael kill an old lady for no reason with the UV light or the ultra the light above the sink? He just ripped it out and stabbed her for no reason.
Cut it. This
movie he's Michael
been,
Myers.
I
should have
understand,
been
but it's
80
just, like,
minutes. 80 minutes. Cut that scene. Cut the other
Like,
scene with the singing neighbors. Like, get rid of them.
dude, I was getting really like cringe during that whole talent show, and the dude's like doing like beat poetry about Michael Myers.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, this is getting really
Cut
weird.
it.
But like even like Harry, you mentioned the guy in the hospital, which I really like. I felt so weird during that whole part because I'm like, yeah, like this guy's shorter than me, and he has like he's balding, and like everyone like no one has
It's
seen
Michael Myers.
face.
Get him.
Yeah, and they're all like trying to kill this guy when he's like shorter than half of them, and like obviously Michael Myers wouldn't run away, like he just would eventually kill everyone, and it just like, and then the guy jumps out of a building, and he, like that character proved no relevance to the story, only to prove that they are like becoming savages, and like they're the town's just becoming like, you know,
showing what a
just
mob
as bad as
mentality can
Michael,
do.
and like, you know, like, and I'm just like,
it's funny that you say that because like that death was pretty gory, and I liked the gore in it, but like, yeah, there was no relevance. Like once he's dead, it's just like, okay, move on. Like that wasn't Michael.
Anthony Michael Hall's
Let's
like,
go.
oh, it's not him. Oh, all right, like speak up.
No remorse.
And then like afterwards, no one felt bad. They're just like, oh, all right, well,
yeah. Well, let's move on to the negatives since those were the positives. I guess that was kind of a mixed bag.
I mean, it made $50 million. It probably didn't cost that much.
Dude, Transformers movie make $1 billion. Money means nothing to me now.
I'll take a Transformers movie over this any day of the week.
Yeah, I know. Probably me too.
So you guys talked a lot about the characters. I thought most of the characters were very unlikable. The few that were likable were Laurie, who was barely in it. Jamie Lee Curtis. She's basically confined to one room for the majority of the movie.
Yeah, it was weird.
And Big
and
John
then they put her back in the
John.
room.
Yeah,
she leaves the room and then goes back to the same room.
Yes, and Big John and Little John I actually liked. I thought they were pretty good.
Caught it.
No,
this
you
movie
didn't,
needs
you
to
didn't
be
like Big
listen.
John, Little John?
85 to 90 minutes lean. Let's
Which
like
one
this
was Big
movie
John
does
and
not
Little
need
John?
to be. Big John was the bigger one, right? Like
no, Big John was the little guy, and Little John was the big one. That's what makes it funny.
I guess.
Who were they? Were they like?
They moved into the original Myers home.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They were the
I didn't
ones
know
with
their
the
names.
kids with the candy. Yeah.
Yeah.
When they see the
I'll,
kids. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll
Which
get to the negatives in that in a second.
I think that scene with them scaring the kids was just to, make them a little more than one dimensional.
Cut it.
But yeah, probably could have been cut. But I enjoyed them. But beyond that, all the rest of the characters were super unlikable, very stupid, as you guys said. Just nothing really redeeming about them. Terrible dialogue, especially from Jamie Lee Curtis and Anthony Michael Hall. Jamie Lee Curtis's diatribes about Michael being pure evil and stuff like that, especially in the middle and towards the end, just brutal to have to sit there and listen to. And Anthony Michael Hall, I swear half of his dialogue was "evil dies tonight." Like, that he said that
was
line.
half the script.
Yeah, that should have been like a drinking game because people would be wasted by the end.
Get him, Tommy, get him.
Yeah. And it's a shame too, because the character of Tommy was in the original, obviously, not played by Anthony Michael Hall, but he was a sweet kid, and now seeing him transformed as this ridiculous adult is just I don't know. It wasn't a character twist that I enjoyed. Any thoughts on the dialogue or the characters?
That the couple, the Big John and Little John, I thought it was so stupid. Like the whole they pulled the whole the kids pulled the whole razor blade in the candy, like, and the kids are and the guys are like buying it. They're like, oh my god, like, oh my, like what happened? Like, you would know if you put big razor blades in your candy. Just say you didn't do it, dummies. Well, unless they were
maybe they bought them like that, or so. I don't know. You know, maybe it was a factory issue.
I don't know, but it's just
I get your point.
That whole it just they serve nothing to the purpose of the fact they just bought the Myers house. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
They did not need to be in the movie. They could have had the house abandoned, and I'd probably still be think it'd be like, all right, well that makes sense. No, so a couple had to move in, and Michael had to kill them because that's what he does.
2 more to the body count, baby.
Dude, what I'm gonna look up what the body count is in this movie.
But,
at least confirmed.
Well, I was gonna say, as far as the first one, as I mentioned, I thought was fine. I thought it was a solid entry or re-entry, is whatever you want to call it. I liked the whole thing of the generations of from Jamie Lee Curtis to Judy Greer's character to her daughter. Allison, I think is the character's name, because she almost and then it's just I felt like this diverted a lot from that on that building of those relationships or that story. And it just seems like this town, as Chris was mentioning earlier, just shows up when it wants and disappears when it wants. And one of the letdowns for me, as far as the characters are, is Judy Greer, as her daughter is about to die, comes in with the pitchfork, stabs Michael in the back, and then stomps his face on the step and is like, "We did it." And it's come on, those are the characters who should be nah, let's get the gasoline. Let me just give a couple more stomps in. Let me wait for backup. And it's just this whole nonsense of just those should be the people who are we shouldn't stop here. And even the whole gang mob riot that gangs up on him at the end when he turns into a god or a demon and is psych, I'm not dead. Come on, guys, finish it. Why are we all of a sudden stopping? We think we're good. The story. We all are aware.
You got to go Michael Bolton on that printer.
Yeah. But as far as a slasher film, if you're looking for, I want to call it subpar Netflix horror, where it's that's this is a good go-to for it. This, if it wasn't on if it wasn't on NBC Universal,
that is
Peacock,
totally a genre, by the way.
Garbage,
horror.
subpar Netflix horror. I'm looking at you, Sean Flayville. I'm looking at you, Greg Rice. Maybe even Tim Bickerton. I'm looking at you guys. But that's the those are the films for that. So, Chris, what was the body count? Did you find it?
I'm looking. IMDb didn't have it, of course.
Of course they did.
All right,
34 deaths. 34.
Okay. So, like I said, that's good.
Including all the firefighters? Those dumb
They probably are included.
Yeah, that's 5 or 6 right there.
Random couples that Michael kills and half the town at the end.
All right, 34 sounds good. Yeah.
Cut his head off.
Speaking of characters, one thing I forgot to mention too, 0 character development. There was just absolutely none.
0.
Nobody grew or learned or anything like that. It was and granted, I get it. This is all within the place of one night, but even still, it's I don't know. It's kind of a cop out to not have any growth or development whatsoever.
I figured out it without seeing the whole first one. I figured out who each person was, except with the exception of ask, I didn't know Tommy, all those people, but then I didn't they didn't care. They were just whoa, here's a bunch of angry mob. Here's Anthony Michael Hall running around the randos, just being hey, you want to kill Michael Myers? Kids, old people, come on. What's the worst that you can do? You got to find the sharpest or dumbest object in your house and grab it. Someone can't show up with an iron.
So here's one thing with character development. It's not really development because it's a totally different branching path, but probably my only gripe about the 2018 Halloween was Laurie Strode. Half the movie she's a PTSD survivor, and it's okay, I get that. And then the other half of the movie she just flips the switch and she's Sarah Connor all of a sudden. Hunting down Michael Myers.
Doomsday prepper.
Yes, and she isn't even either of those in this movie. She's just kind of this ambivalent character that waxes poetic on the nature of evil and Michael Myers, and it's
just laying in bed all day.
it's not even consistent with what happened, you know, earlier on. So I don't know. It's just strange to me.
Yeah,
Out
she
of all
like
the
injects herself with painkillers, and she's like, make it a double. Like, all right, that's it. Like, this is stupid. Like, why is she in this movie?
out of all the kills, there was really only one major kill, in my opinion, which was Laurie's daughter, Karen, Judy Greer.
Yeah, Judy. Yeah.
So, you know, as far as the stakes go for this movie, you know, it's just like, all right, well, I get it. A lot of randos and townsfolk got killed and stuff, but you know, what does it all mean? I guess I struggle with that question.
I mean, it
Like,
looks like, yeah.
Good.
Well, it looks like we're getting a Laurie Michael Myers like showdown.
Yeah.
And I mean, they
Yeah.
hinted that at the end with the flashing to each of them. But yeah, super disappointed in that whole kind of killing her, in my opinion.
Dude,
But
The third one's gonna be like them fighting with like katanas or something
nice, like a
like
samurai
cracked out.
showdown.
Yeah, like a little
a
samurai
la the
showdown.
bride and
Yeah. All of a
Let's
sudden
go.
they're martial arts experts.
the only other point I had, which, you know, kind of speaks to what you had mentioned earlier, Hans, with The Hobbit, was ultimately, I mean, this just felt like a filler movie. Like it was a waste of time. You know, it's cool to see Michael go on a rampage and everything, but like without any other meat on that bone whatsoever, it was just like, what's the point of this? All of this, in my eyes, could have been removed and, you know, extend the first one a little bit, extend the third one a little bit, boom. But second chapter, totally unnecessary. I mean, and that's coming from a guy who is a Halloween fan. I mean, admittedly, it's not my favorite franchise of slashers, but I really enjoy them. And just seeing this, it's like this movie didn't need to exist. So I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
If I could give this an IMDb rating, because I don't have an account, I'd put this at like a 1. Like I think I gave it like a 1 on Letterbox. I'm pretty sure I'd give it a 1 on Letterbox.
I gave it a 1.5.
Maybe whatever. Yeah, I gave it something pretty low. But I'll never watch this again. Like I might watch Halloween Ends or I'll just read like a Wikipedia plot summary of it, just to save myself the time. But I will never watch a Halloween movie after this. Not because I'm scared or anything, because like I'm always gonna think about this movie. And I never want to think about it again.
Yeah. Hair.
And I got disappointing news. I put in the calendar when Halloween Ends comes out. I booked all next October, so we're gonna be watching.
See if I stick around for that one.
Ranking the Halloween movies.
I might be on vacation.
Okay. So yeah, no, I mean, like I said, the first one I thought was at least solid. You know, you could maybe categorize as fine, 2.5 out of 5 stars, whatever you want to say, maybe even 3. But this one, yeah, just a big L. Like I said, it felt very Fast and the Furious-y, where it's like if you're here for, you know, Michael Myers and for the Halloween elements of, you know, what it is, like you're gonna get what you want. And if you look at the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, it's like 70%, and the critic score is like 20%, and usually it's about in between there. You know, if you average them, I would say that's how you try to judge a movie, you know, because sometimes critics can be a little uppity and sometimes the crowd can not know what they're talking about for it. So
fair point.
But yeah, I mean, listen, let's close this out next October. Halloween Ends. I'll be there. You know, evil dies tonight, baby. Let's go. Let's ride.
So if you guys are on the fence about Halloween Kills, which, you know, you haven't we just went through a spoiler review, so I don't know how you could be, but if you're on the fence about whether to see it, I would say even if you're the hardest hardcore Halloween fan, you know, you could probably skip this or, you know, check it out on streaming.
Build a higher or longer fence.
Yes, for sure. All right, so we're gonna move on from movies, and now we're gonna switch to series, not necessarily TV, because both the topics we're talking about aren't on traditional TV, but on streaming platforms. So first, we're going to start off with Squid Game. Hans, why don't you take us through that? What do you think?
So this kind of took over basically like the world. You know, if you're not familiar with it, it's not a unique story in terms of, I feel like it's been done before in terms of like Battle Royale and The Condemned with Steve Austin. You know, I feel like that doesn't get that isn't talked about enough, so let's throw that in there. You know, basic summary, it's a South Korean show that a bunch of people who are struggling financially end up going into these games that if you break the rules or you lose, you're not just eliminated, but you're killed. So it's a basic premise. It's not a movie. It's a 9-episode series. As of right now, they only have one season. I actually remember looking at Netflix maybe about a month ago, probably about a week after the shop, before like everyone started watching it, and I was kind of intrigued with it. I didn't start watching it then, but I was just kind of like, this is weird. Like, I feel like I'm going to watch this at some point. And then in the next like 2 weeks, I feel like I was like behind the 8 ball where everyone was watching it. And I think like the whole concept of the show, even though it's not considered original, I think the idea of how they did it is fantastic. They pull a lot of child's games that we probably played as a little kid and put pretty high stakes on it. So you have like 456 people competing in this. You really like, I don't even think there's a person to root for. Like, usually you have these kind of movies where there's considered like a hero, and the main guy, 456, I don't remember his real name, but Ehun, yeah. So he's, I guess you're kind of rooting for him for them. He's, I guess, the least morally bankrupt. But you follow like his story through how he's struggling financially, and then it really focuses on like, I guess, like 5 or 6 other characters. You get a really cool backstory episode with them.
Yeah.
Simple games, but I feel like they're like, the complexity of them is like was kind of really well done, where it wasn't just necessarily like, there's a lot of strategy involved, like with the honeycomb games and like tug of war. And I thought like I was really kind of blown away after like the first 2 episodes, where I was kind of like, all right, like I'm kind of pulled in. I think episodes like 3 and 4 were like, all right, I'm here to stay. Like I'm not gonna, like, this is the kind of bingeable show where we've talked about before, like, we want it all at once or week by week. I'm glad they released this on Netflix all at once, because I feel like this was that kind of show where you're just like, you really want to know what's happening next. A lot of really cool episodes, even though like the concept's been done before. Like, they do a great job at character development with all its characters. And everyone really has their kind of their time to shine. Now, like before with Halloween, we are going to jump into spoiler territory, because there are some very kind of, I don't want to say shocking, but there are some pretty big like kind of reveals with it, where going into it, you kind of want to go in fresh. So if you haven't seen it, just skip ahead like 10-15 minutes. So one of the big reveals we find out is it's run by this organization. You don't really know who they are through the whole thing. Just, it has a henchman and a leader called the front man, who ends up being one of the lead or supporting characters' brothers, who's a cop. And then you find out in the last episode that the old man who has a brain tumor is basically like pulling the strings through the whole show. One of the things I kind of put in my notes was, I feel like I may have seen that coming, only because I've seen like movies like Saw and like these kind of movies where I feel like they always have like someone placed in it, like whoever's running the show, and you never see him die off screen. And I kind of had that idea. And then, you find out in the last episode, this guy is like I don't even know what kind of money, bajillionaire, who basically had so much money that he wanted to watch other people suffer and basically make everyone fair, but put a lot of money on the line. And kind of savage and kind of sick, but people were doing it. There's a lot of like, I think there's a lot of aspects to it where, I can let you guys jump in with what you have. But I think there are like, one of the points that I had, like, this is another, we're going to go back to like the Haddonfield comparison. This is the dumbest country in the world, or police force or whatever, of these people are just disappearing and no one's questioning it. Like, all these poor people are like going away, and
yeah, but
400.
I saw that, but I think like, a lot of these people are like super like destitute, or maybe criminals on the run or whatever. So it's like, how
I thought
hard
about that
are they really
too.
looking for these people? Yeah.
Yeah. And then like the what main character goes to the police off like the thing, and then they're like, oh no, you're nuts. Like I'm pretty sure someone might have mentioned this before, but whatever. I digress. It has a lot of really interesting characters, like even from like the corporation or whatever their name is. Like I don't even think they say their name. Whoever's running Squid Game. You have these VIPs like towards the last, like the one VIP episode, which they're weird. They're basically perverts, and they're like all American, and I think they are.
I mean,
I think
it kind of reminded me of like the people from Hostel, where it was like they're the dudes watching.
Yeah, and then like it kind of makes you like wonder, like and I know like Greg, you had mentioned like one of your questions was like, would you go into Squid Game? And it's kind of like I feel like everyone who's watching that would like at one point thought like, what would I do for? I mean, in there it's 46 billion, but I think in American it's like 38 million. Like, would you do that? And I'm like, it's one of those like kind of thought provoking shows, but it ends at season 1. If we're gonna get a season 2, I don't think it's been confirmed, but with the success, it took over Bridgerton, which I'll never watch. So yay, Squid Game.
I heard Bridgerton's good.
I won't. Yeah,
sure. It's on my short list.
Yep. Well, when you start your Bridgerton podcast, I'll listen. But no, I'll throw it to you guys. See what you think. I didn't want to like kind of go. I know we're probably gonna have a little bit of discussion because you guys have some points I didn't touch on. So,
so Harry, you want to go first?
Yeah. Yeah, like I mean, Hans was talking about as far as like this felt like something, and it's difficult. I mean, I think we've talked about it before, where it's difficult to kind of talk about shows like Squid Game when it drops all at once, and it's like, how are we going to talk about this? How long do we wait for people to go see it? How are we going to be able to catch up on it? With things we want to talk about. So I think we definitely missed the initial rush of it, but I mean, I think it's still here, and I still got people in my life I'm telling about it, and they're like, I haven't seen it yet, or I was going to check it out, or, I watched an episode, but I didn't, me and the wife watched it together because she was intrigued. And, as Hans was saying, the first episode definitely grabs you. It definitely pulls you in. It definitely, ends where you're like, holy cow, what's going on here with this? But, without jumping too far, down the line, Greg, because we'll circle back on, kind of how it plays out. But definitely some influences of Bong Joon-ho in this, with Snowpiercer specifically. Chris mentioned some other influences. You think of Hunger Games, as well, kind of with this, society, where, these people who are, down and out, or, have put themselves in situations where they have to gamble. Are now being used. Parasite, as well as just the class divide. South Korea, is a very interesting as far as class divide. I mean, I think the whole world is, but Bong has definitely shed a lot of light on that. And especially like Chris was mentioning earlier about like all these people disappearing, and it's like people who are either homeless or how problems in society with homelessness, or with people in debt, you just assume they're going to go missing, or they're not they're going to end up disappearing because of their money troubles. So and then as far as some of the games, definitely some cultural things there where you're kind of either having to look up. I think NPR did a nice article kind of circling that, as far as if people want to check it out, for some better understanding about the culture. If there's any gaps there missing. You really enjoyed the cop, sneaking into, the society and getting into the underbelly for this. And that was probably I wouldn't say it was my favorite storyline, but besides the main one for it, 456 is, because I'll probably butcher the name as well. But I think the cop storyline was probably my favorite part on it. Greg, what were your thoughts on it initially and kind of going through it?
Well, first thing is shout out to Val Brown, super fan of the show, because she's the one that turned me on to this. I did see it in Netflix as like, it was like ranked number 1 or whatever, but between the name and the picture, I just thought it was like another like MXC or like Wipeout type show. I thought it was like a legit game show. I didn't think it was this drama. But she was like, no, you got to check this out. So I gave it a watch, and boy, was I happy I did. I will say, in the beginning, I thought it was a little slow to start, but like you guys mentioned, once it, hit episode like 2 or 3 or whatever, just like pure fire. It was, firing on all cylinders at that point.
Yeah.
As far as the stuff, or my notes, I should say, most of it is towards the end of it. But I will say, it was sad to see some of my favorites bite it. Ali was a great character, and boy, he just got
man.
Yeah, they
taken
did him
advantage
dirty,
of.
dude.
Yeah,
Like,
they did.
I honestly like, and we'll talk about another character on the show like in a little bit, but that I hate, like I hate a little more than I and what was Owen's best friend, the guy who went to, they keep pointing out what college he went to. What was his name?
Sang-woo.
Sang-woo.
Yeah.
That dude deserved every bad thing that ever happened to him until the end.
Because of what he did to Ali.
Because what he did to Ali. Like I was legitimately mad. Like after, like, because when I figured out like what he was doing, I'm like, oh no, like Ali, you're just such a nice guy. Like you're literally like such a pure soul. And Sang-woo did him really dirty.
When Sang-woo was describing like, oh yeah, here's how I'm going to take care of this, and just trust me and blah blah blah, I'm like, I don't understand what he's going to do, but okay, like we'll see. And then when he like secreted away those marbles, Ali's marbles, I'm like, oh man, this dude.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, he's like, what was he telling people? Like, go and like challenge other people for their marbles and everything. And you had like a minute and a half left. Like, there's no way that Ali's gonna like pull this off in a minute and a half. And he's like, he's not the most like intelligent character. Like, he's very like ignorant in like basic like kind of like skills. And he didn't do anything wrong. Like, he was basically in there like to support his family because he wasn't getting paid from his job. Like, it wasn't like other people who like conned other people, like gambling their money away, like, or I like Sang-woo like got caught up in like all these like bad investments and all that. And they did him really bad. Like, I felt like I was hoping he like somehow pulled out a win, because he's like, I guess him and a few like the one girl, like they didn't do anything wrong. They were doing it for their families. And Ali got, I hope that was to make like show how bad like Sang-woo really was, like how like conniving he was. And I hate him. Like, I'm glad like when we get to the end, like I'm like, thank God he didn't win.
That marble episode was really like a pivotal point, because that's when a lot of the characters that we had spent time with started dropping. Because another one along with Ali was Sae-byok, the female I think you were talking about, where she she was doing this to get the money to kind of help her brother out and everything. But yeah, I mean the two of them, and then Il-nam, he's kind of playing up like he has dementia and he can't remember, and he's letting Gi-hoon take advantage of him, and then it turns out he wasn't. But yeah, I mean that episode was really kind of like the turning point where it really whittled down the characters that we know and love to just a few. So fantastic episode from a fantastic series. Some of the other stuff I had, I mean, it was just I actually enjoyed the ending. I know a lot of people didn't. They thought it was kind of mid, I guess. Yeah. I thought it was cool that Il-nam was the mastermind. I didn't see it coming, to be honest, but I thought it was a pretty cool turn that they did it. And I guess Jun-ho, the policeman, my question for you guys is, did he actually die?
Ooh. I would say
go ahead, Harry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say no, because we don't really see him, but at the same time, I mean, if we're going by what the show is telling us, and this is kind of my big thing and why I dislike the last episode, is that if the show is telling us that, we need to see people die on screen, we didn't really see him die. We see him disappear. We can assume he died though, but because how's he getting out of it, I guess would be the other question of like, it'd be some miraculous thing or some fisherman going by who ends up on the island or something.
I feel like had this been not a hit, then he would have died. Like that would be the fate of his character.
Yeah.
But because it is a hit and it was kind of open-ended, they're going to bring him back, assuming they do a sequel to it.
What do you think, Hans?
Yeah, I was like, it's the common like kind of like movie trope where if your main character doesn't die on screen, they're probably still alive. I would really think like how, and I would love to see his relationship with the front man, his brother, to kind of like if they end up doing a season two, like I feel like they're using him, like keeping him alive to put him in that kind of like whether or not he escapes or if he's still on the island, I don't know. But I think that his character was received positively, so I think they're gonna like kind of they wouldn't necessarily like bring him. They wouldn't necessarily just like kill him off screen because honestly, he got shot in the shoulder. But I mean, this is one of like the bloodiest shows that I've seen. Like they would definitely like if you look over the cliff, they would have no problem showing like his body like splattered on rocks.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that you don't see a dead body, and I think the front man knows that he's alive and is kind of either gonna like spend time trying to find him or maybe they captured him and they're keeping him on the island. I don't know. So yeah, but I think he's still alive.
So Hans mentioned it earlier, and I posed the question to you guys. Legit, would you play Squid Game?
Are we assuming we know nothing about it? Like, are we going in the same way the characters do?
Sure, why not?
Okay, I'm just because I mean, with the knowledge of Squid Game, no, absolutely not.
No, okay.
I would. Well, I mean, I would say if I know what it's about and I like if it's a real game show per se and it's like an event, I would absolutely not do it because I'm pretty content with my life right now. If things go awry or my wife leaves me, hopefully not. Yeah, maybe if I'm down on my luck. But I feel like if I didn't know anything, money is tempting. And I feel like I would be pulled in. Because the basic thing is like you play a game and you end up winning, and there's all those failed attempts where he would have died originally, and then he ends up getting the one, and it's like that's what you're chasing that feeling. It's gambling pretty much. There's a lot of luck involved in gambling where it's like sometimes things could be statistical, but it's like sometimes it's just luck of the draw or luck of what you pick. So yeah, those are my two answers. So on the fence per usual for me. What about you, Hans?
Like, I don't know, because it's like, all right, so if we know, like, this is, what I kind of like compare this to is like, if you're like watching a video or something on YouTube or something, and you get like an ad for a mobile game, and the person playing it is always like failing miserably, and you're like,
yeah,
I can do that. Like that's easy. Like these guys are idiots. And I actually read into that like a couple years ago where that's like a kind of an advertisement, like kind of a strategy to make people think like they're smarter than they like, and not even like incorporate that into any kind of like the actual game. But I think that mindset like comes across with a lot of people watching it where they're like red light, green light. You're like, all right, like I can play red light, green light, or I can etch out a honeycomb with no problem. Like that's these guys are idiots. Like, how are people failing at this? And I would hope, like, I haven't downloaded any of those mobile games, so I mean this is a little like they're not as like kind of life threatening as Squid Game. I think with knowledge of the games, like if you knew what the games were, I'm gonna say no. But like Harry's point is, it's extremely tempting to say like you're about to get offered $36 million, and like you like it's kind of like part of like when I said like the kind of complexity of the show is like you really want to put yourself in kind of the main character's like situation of like, I hope I'm never in that financial kind of ruin where I have to consider that. But it's definitely like I think I would say no, but when you have so much, when you're like up against it and like you have no one, and it's like what do you have to lose? Then I mean probably I might consider it.
So with me, it's basically what you just mentioned. Like if I had no idea what the games were about, I don't think I would do that. I probably wouldn't even do the slapping game, to be honest. But if I had knowledge of the game, the only way I would do it is if I was in that situation where I was that down on my luck and destitute, where I had no one in my life, where I have gangsters coming after me. I have zero chance that I'll ever be able to repay any of this debt and it's all crushing down on me, then yeah, what have I got to lose? I would definitely play the Squid Game. But that's a big asterisk. I would have to be in that exact position, because otherwise, yeah, it's a no-go for me. But I just thought it'd be a fun, albeit dark question to pose to you guys.
No, and that's a fair question. Like, and to be honest, like, I'll play that, whatever that bad game that they were playing in the beginning, the flipping. Like, I still understand what that is, but I'll let someone slap me for $100,000. Like, that's fine. You want to slap me all you want, go ahead. I don't care. But then, like, yeah, then that the whole concept of that game is drawing people in. The fact that this stranger comes in and he's like, hey, you can win a lot of money by just playing this dumb whatever flip game. Or I get to slap you. I'm like, look, slap me all you want, man. Just pay me. That's fine. Now, I mean, all these characters, I guess they probably think like the worst that's going to happen is the fact that if they lose, they get slapped, not die. But hey, man, I don't ride the subway probably for reasons like this, is because I don't want to run into people like this. So hopefully I'm never in a position.
So the other stuff I had is kind of like postscript to this. Harry, did you want to expand on your thoughts on the finale?
Yeah, I mean, I felt as though the finale, I'm happy. I was so happy that they did the final game in the first 20 minutes. Was so happy with that, because the biggest thing I hate is leading up to that. And it's like, we all know this is going to happen. Don't tease us, just like throw it at us and let's see the aftermath. What was a problem for me was when Ilnan, right? Ilnan?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
His character shows up to be kind of the string puller. And that really bothered me, because I feel as though, Greg, you were talking about episode 6 earlier, and that's the one where they play the marbles and all that stuff. And that had such an impact on me. And I was like almost choking up a lot during it, because there's so much betrayal. And I think about it like if one of us were playing together, like what I would have, like they go into this game thinking it's a team game again. And it all of a sudden it's flipped on the script, and one of you is going to live and one of you is going to die.
Well, and, don't you put that on me, Ricky Bobby.
Well, and it's just like you think, like, and it just takes away from that episode so much with him and not dying in that moment, with the impact of that. And that's the other thing what happens with binging, because we were binging this pretty hard, where you're flying through the episodes and it doesn't leave as much of a great impact, because right after that episode you jump into the next one. But I felt like it hurt it really a lot there at the end. And I didn't also like the end with like him, getting the card, again, and giving the call and returning back. I mean, I guess I get it from the perspective of like, that'll definitely lead to season 2, but I mean, wasn't the whole purpose of this, like, I don't know, it wasn't the whole purpose for like you to do better for your kid. And then, not that he made promises, but like,
surgery for his mom and
like all this stuff. And it's just like, I get it. Like, but you're not doing anyone any good. And he just tried to like, that's the whole thing. It's like, he redeems himself by, Sang-woo, he gives the orphan kid, the brother up for adoption to his mother. But it's just like this whole thing of like, and then he like is going to get on the plane to go see his daughter, and then he stops. And I guess that's like part of what he did in the beginning, where it's like he did this whole thing because he wanted to be a father of his daughter, but then it's like you're just going back into that. And I guess it's because he's changed, do you know what I mean, from the game, which is pretty obvious. But I felt it cheapened the whole moments with him, and maybe that's what it was meant to do, and I didn't like it as much. So it really left a sour taste in my mouth finishing it. And then I had to watch Halloween Kills, so that probably didn't help either. So
yeah, I mean, for sure, like, I don't think there's anybody who wasn't, pulling for Gi-hoon to just get on the plane, man. Just ignore the card and all that stuff. And
let somebody else handle that, or go at least see your daughter and then come back and deal with it. Like, it's going to be there.
True. Hans, what were your thoughts on it?
I didn't understand. Like, I like, when it was revealed who was kind of pulling the strings, I like that. It was like I said, like with Saul, like it was very like Jigsaw-ish to like, and I kind of like had an idea, and going back and watching videos and everything of people like analyzing the fact that like you could see this coming, that he was kind of pulling the strings. Like there's a lot of clues that like I'm watching it, I was like kind of like, oh, all right, well maybe I'll go back and look at it then. And I kind of I just feel for some reason I think after the Marvel episode when they show him not die on screen, and they just
Yeah.
like, I'm like, maybe they don't want to show like an old man get popped. Like that's probably the case. Like, but I think like this dude was way too happy through the whole thing. Like he was all about it. And I just was like, all right, well, maybe he has something to do with it, or like, he's there voluntarily. And so I kind of like wasn't entirely surprised. But then the whole plane thing got me a little annoyed because like you're right, like get on the plane, man. Like you have 46 million won or however you say it. And it's like just get like you can do anything you want, like leave it behind. Like, yes, this Squid Game still exists, but it's done with you. Like you can
Got
go
your
and
nice
live your
new red
life.
hair. Like, come on.
Yeah, which like and like I don't know where they're gonna go with season 2, where they're like, is he going to go back to the games? Because at that point they're gonna be like, dude, this dude's here to like destroy us. Like, let's just kill him right away. Like I don't know. Like I think like how he's gonna infiltrate it. Like I don't know what his plan is, because they obviously have people watching him, because they even say like get on the plane. Like just yeah. Like people are always watching him, but at the same time he's just like, now I gotta do what's right. Like no, you don't. Like you've all my money. You can like just whatever, buy the island and burn it down or whatever. Just go see your daughter first.
So you guys mentioned season 2 predictions. Do you guys think it'll be a prequel or a sequel, or what do you think will happen?
I think a prequel makes the most sense, because at this point, like if you're gonna keep like your main character who won it and like show him trying to infiltrate it, or even if they do like a half and half, or like kind of like, I'd be interested in that. I would love to see how it started, or whoever came up with this idea, and how big this kind of operation goes. Because obviously people around the world their VIPs are into this and have some kind of like, basically he said it's like horse racing. So I would love to see like kind of the origin of it. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think huge prequel potential with this show. I mean, I guess you could see a second season where it's like, hey, let's find out what the road is, why he didn't get on the plane, how's he going to figure it out? Maybe if what's it called? I forget the cop's name, but if the cop lived, like go down that track. But I think huge prequel potential as far as just like diving into Ilnan and like how he, grew this game, how it started, what started it, kind of take it behind the scenes of like who are the kind of the major players for it. See the brothers' relationship. How did the brother get involved? When he obviously won at some point. So like, what happened from there? Was it something he decided to do? So yeah, a lot of potential, I think, for a prequel to it. And obviously the VIPs have mentioned different games, so it seems like not fairly easy, but an easy way to add some more games in there.
Mm-hmm. I do think that they'll go the sequel route as opposed to prequel, but I also think that we will get flashbacks, specifically with Junho's brother and also with Ilnam.
Yeah.
But I just Gi-hyun was really the character that he was the main character, and most people, I guess, identified with or latched onto. So I can't see them just leaving his story up in the air and not following up on it. But I do think, there's a lot of ground to cover with flashbacks and previous winners and how this tournament got set up and everything.
Got to create the world for people to hate it. So it's all get the backlash.
Yeah, for sure. The only other thing I had to add was this past week on SNL, Rami Malek hosted, and he did an amazing sketch with Pete Davidson. It was a country song about the Squid Game. Highly recommend checking this out if you haven't seen it. It is hilarious.
It's a literal description of the show, like almost like, so if you haven't seen the show, don't watch it because you'll probably get spoiled. But it is it's a nice mix of country music and Squid Game.
Don't think they go together, but just like PB&J, they absolutely
made it happen.
Yes, it actually. I thought, I heard a lot of people like just comment say it was like dumb. I watched it. I'm like, I was cracking up through like, I'm like, this is a great synopsis of Squid Game.
So. Absolutely. Any final thoughts on Squid Game from any of you guys?
Watch it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would say watch it, but I would say let it breathe. I would say don't try to binge watch it like most people do with this. I mean, we could have another discussion, as we always do, and revisit when we get to our next topic of Mr. Lasso. But I feel like let this breathe a little bit for you. Don't push it all through, because I mean, listen, the second season might come out quicker than we all anticipate, but let it breathe. Let it breathe, because otherwise, I think you're going to feel a little let down at the end.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, moving on, as Harry mentioned, we're going to talk about Ted Lasso, a show near and dear to all of us on the pod. So, Harry, why don't you take us in?
Yeah, of course. One thing I was going to say in the beginning. I'm not sure, Chris, did you get me in the Lasso, or did I get you in the Lasso?
I think you got me into it a little bit. You had already watched, I think, the first season.
Yeah.
I binged like season 1 over a weekend, like before season 2 came out. So I think you were already way in on it.
Well, I knew
both you guys got me in.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, I was trying to remember. So yeah, Ted Lasso available on Apple TV if you have it. Also check out if you buy any new Apple products, or I mean, I think I bought my PlayStation, which came with free Apple.
So 6 months, no less.
Yeah. So like, look for things like that. Like if anyone's trying to figure out a best way to not add a streaming service to your library. Which is at a cost heavy price. But yeah, Ted Lasso just finished up its second season. This actually drops differently, as we mentioned with Squid Game and Netflix. They usually drop everything all at once. This has been dropped similar to other things we've talked about, like with most of the Disney Plus shows, and also with Mandalorian, as I mentioned. So yeah, really, really, really enjoyable, wholesome show, as my wife would say. Was a little bit hesitant at first, and I think Greg probably expressed that, in previous podcasts, about like everybody's talking about it, but like, is it that good? And I think a lot of people are approaching season 1 of the show as binging it. And if you haven't watched it yet, you're probably gonna have to binge both seasons, because it is pretty infectious. And it stars basically Jason Sudeikis, who goes over to England after having some success in football, NFL football, I should say, to be a Premier League coach in England. And this was a whole kind of NBC, as we mentioned earlier, NBC Sports kind of promotion for the Premier League in America. And this was a character created from that, and it kind of developed into this show. And I think we're all grateful that it did. For it. So season 1 spends a lot of time on Ted and just his infectious personality on a lot of the characters. And you get some character growth, and you get to know the kind of main players, Jamie and Nate and Rebecca and Keely, and Roy. Roy Kent. Come on. He's here.
Sing the rest of it.
He's here. He's there. He's every
where?
Yeah. Roy Kent. Really can. I was wondering where that F-bomb was dropped in. So, but yeah. So that's you get to kind of know a lot of the main players. He's dealing with being away from his family. And he kind of went through a divorce. I'm pretty sure he's going through a divorce in the first season. Spoiler alert, in case if you haven't seen it. But we're gonna get into some more stuff with it. And yeah, that's most of season 1, and I think it hooks you in right away. I think, like I said, I think Ted's infectious personality, and just, you're watching, and this is rare in shows, where you're watching a male character. I saw a tweet once where it was, you're watching a white male actually be good. And that's what's so surprising about this show. Because usually he's got, some demons or something like that. And season 2 definitely explores, more of those secondary characters, as I mentioned, and kind of their growth. And that's where I think the show really excels, is it does a really good job of laying the foundation of the world and who Ted is. And then in the second season, peeling back the layers of Ted, while also peeling back the layers of most of the other characters. And, it deals, after the first season, there's problems with the team, and, are they good enough, and is this going to work? But everybody's committed to they're on the Lasso juice. They're drinking the Kool-Aid.
Believe.
So yeah, believe. Exactly. So I'll let you guys kind of touch some points on some things that you guys are enjoying. But yeah, like as I mentioned, the second season just finished up. So if you're looking for, something, as we mentioned, there's a lot of content out there, but as the holidays move through, it's a great show to get caught back up on before the season 3 hits. So Papa, what are your lasso moments or thoughts on the show so far?
Yeah, I mean, I'm such a fan. I even got the old lasso push broom rocking here. No, yeah, I season 1 was fantastic, and like you said, it was more focused on Ted, and he's so goofy and corny that it's like eye rolling at first. And boy, just infectious is really the perfect word, because he wins you over with that, and it's like, man, this dude really is wholesome, like you said, and it's fun to watch that. But the thing that's great about season 2 is, without feeling forced or contrived in any way, they really put the spotlight on all the other characters, the minor characters, while still, putting Ted through his own paces and his own arc. But we really get to take a look at character arcs and development for all these side characters that are just so wonderful. And there's not like, I mean, I guess what's Rebecca's ex-husband's name? Is that Rupert?
Yeah, Rupert.
Yeah. I like, other than him, there's really like not any unlikable characters on the show. Well, maybe like Jamie Tartt's father too, but like everybody else.
Jamie
like,
in season 1, Jamie's pretty unlikable, I think, in season 1.
He's right, but in season 2,
he's growing.
He grows. He kind of wins you over a little bit, and you see, the kind of the crap that he's had to put up with and has helped form him and make him, but he grows from that. And the interactions between him and Roy are pretty stellar, especially towards the end. Episode 4, Carol of the Bells, which was a Christmas show that aired, I think, in season like July. 2, right? Yeah. Season 2. Episode 4 of season 2, Carol of the Bells, Christmas episode. Such an amazing episode. Absolutely love it. It's my favorite of the series, and I'm not like a Christmas guy at all whatsoever, but like, I love that the whole team are kind of like orphans, because none of them are from England. None of them are there with their families, and they all come over to Casa de Higgins, and they're there for a big Christmas family feast with the Higgins family. It's awesome. Everybody's sharing, and there's just all this goodwill and love. At the same time, you've got the subplot with Ted and Rebecca getting to know each other a little more, and they're going around and doing some goodwill, giving away presents. And then you have Roy and Keeley, and Roy is sticking up for his niece and, trying to correct a problem that she has. And it's just really touching and funny all at once. It's just, man, it's such an amazing half an hour of television. I can't believe that the show could rope me in and hit me in the feels like that. But I was just, even now I'm smiling thinking about it. I just really loved that episode. I'll touch on some of the other character stuff, I guess, later as we go into discussions, because I have kind of notes on each character. But I will say, as far as episodes go, I wasn't a huge fan of the episode that focused on Coach Beard, which was Beard After Hours. I forget which number it was. It was okay for me.
Right after the Manchester loss,
City,
right?
Yeah.
Right. City
Yeah.
loss. Yeah.
It was okay. It wasn't like it was a terrible episode or anything. I love the show, and I love Coach Beard, but it just, maybe it's because of his relationship and how it's constantly on and off with his girlfriend. I feel like there wasn't a ton of growth there, because he's back with his girl again by the end of the episode. But other than that episode, which again I enjoyed, but just was on the lower end of the spectrum for me. I love the season, man. It's so good. Hans, what are your thoughts?
I just want to I'm going through, I just want, while you just mentioned it, like the Beard After Hours episode is, I wouldn't say it is my favorite, but like it's definitely a different style of the rest of the entire series.
For sure.
Which, I thought that episode, like leading up at the end of the Man City episode, I thought it was going in a completely different direction. Like I almost thought in my mind that they were gonna kill off Beard or like do something like bad,
Yeah.
because he looked like he was in a dark like spot when he was leaving. I'm like, dude, don't do it. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that like, he just walked home. Like that's like essentially what he did was walk home. And then, the shenanigans ensued until he got to the weird church with the underground rave. But with season one, like, and I'm sporting my AFC Richmond shirt now, my Roy Kent shirt, which is now taken over as my new favorite shirt. I will say like season two definitely is better than I won't say better, but I enjoy season two more. Season one really focused a lot on the comedy while like kind of trickling in like some serious moments. Like, I mean, the most serious moment is from season one is, you start learning that Ted is suffering from panic attacks, which isn't really Rebecca helps him out of it. And you kind of like, they don't really touch on that too much again until Sharon comes in, the therapist, which is midway through season two. I think season two has a lot more like kind of more heartfelt and serious discussions than season one. I think that like they really like, they do dive into mental illness like right away, like in terms of like anxiety, depression, even with Rojas when he kills the dog. And like they kind of like experimented through that way, which I think is like just a great like episode, like the way to kick off season one. Like I don't support killing of animals, but like you really don't like see that coming anyway. Like, and you don't see Rojas killing a dog. Like that never happens in real life, except like once when like Randy Johnson took a bird out in baseball. But other than that, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But I think that was cool. Like, there's a great introduction to bring Sharon in. And, I think that, putting a lot of the focus on, and they touch on this at the end of the last episode is when like, Ted says, comes clean with the press and says, I think it's time to focus on mental illness in sports. I don't know when this episode was written or filmed, but it's very like, I think that's a big discussion now, like in terms of like athletes that are being criticized with, with Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka and now Lane Johnson, like where, they're seen as like, a lot of people see them as like invincible and don't have these issues. So I'm glad that the show kind of had the guts to really put a lot of its like its main focus into that area. And I think a lot of like some of the other things that they kind of like touch on is, the father-son relationship with Jamie Tart, which that's not like funny at all. Like like that whole episode, like the Man City episode, I maybe laughed once or twice, but I think there was a lot of like serious discussions, like, and then they go into, why you learn like the fate of Ted's father when he was 16. And it really like the show at one point, I think the first half of season two went with the laughs. And then there was like a turning point to say like, once they like Ted kind of started building that relationship with Sharon, I feel like they took a really, I don't want to say dark turn, but a more serious tone going forward with a lot of their characters. And, I think that was actually really cool for them to do. Like, and then they started to say like, like you see like the de-evolution, or I don't know, evolution of Nate become like basically who's probably going to be the villain for season three. But you see like some of his relationship issues, and I think that's what the show does best is kind of mixing those moments. And it is a real feel good show of like, you can laugh one moment, but then the next like scene or like line or whatever, you're just like, whoa, like that kind of either hits too close to home or that hit like you're kind of like not laughing anymore. You're like, all right, that's but I think it's the opposite too, is like when they hit you with like a kind of a darker moment, they like immediately will do something. Like I think the funeral episode is actually one of my like the funniest episodes. It's like I think one of Roy Kent's funniest episodes, where like he just eats the apple and he walks up to Keely and he's making fun of her and he says like, yeah, he's like, I got it from a tree outside. It tastes like dead people. And like she's just kind of like knows that he's like messing with her, but like he's just like so like, he's trying to find light in a dark time. And I think that whole episode like really relied on laughs when, I don't think it should, like it's, I think normally on a funeral episode you're supposed to feel sad, but through 85% of that, I felt like I was like kind of like laughing more. So, but yeah, I this is actually one of my like I would put this in conversation for probably top 10 favorite shows of all time. Like it
Wow.
really, like I binged the whole first season like right away, and I was like not like every Friday morning I'd either wake up early before work and watch it or watch it on my lunch break. Like I like every Friday was like in Disney. I watched one of the episodes while I was in the park. I was like, it's such a like a great show, but I mean, yeah, I'll turn it back over to you guys and see if there's anything that I kind of missed with it.
Harry, do you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say one of the things I, I mean, obviously I'm glad we're ending on a high, as opposed to on a low with things. But yeah, I mean, I think this show, I think sometimes glorifies, and this isn't like a criticism. It's just like, I remember with the Sam sponsorship deal with his home country, and the mental health, that Lasso likes to talk about. I think that's like kind of looking at the best light of how things should be. And I think that's good because sometimes I think it doesn't get enough light shed on it. But I also think that's like for also the common person, if your company you work for, or, where you're employed isn't doing the right thing ethically, or, you are, having trouble because, you're feeling overwhelmed, like there should be avenues and ways where they're able to accommodate you, if you're, I mean, this doesn't happen in the show, but if if your wife is pregnant, how much time are you going to get off, And so like, there's a lot of human rights things, that I think, or even just regular people things, that, I think the show sheds a light on, which is a positive. But that it's just a little bit of a gripe as far as like showing the best light of it. But I'm, happy to see that. The other thing I love about the show is that I'm the only fan here of Premier League soccer. The only one out of the three of us who follows the team. And I think the beauty of the show is that you don't need to know that. Yeah, it helps, when a lot of people I know were like, is AFC Richmond like a real team? And it's like, no, they're actually not. It's all made up. And it's like, really? Yeah. Well, I wasn't gonna call you out for it.
I might have asked them that too. I think, yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
but it's one of those things of like, they just had, a sponsorship deal with the Premier League to be able to use for season 3. So excited to see that as a person who enjoys the world. But again, watching it with a wife or watching it with someone who doesn't watch it, I think that's the beauty of the show is like the focus isn't on, are they going to win the game? It almost is secondary, especially in season 2, for the most of the season, you don't even know they're fighting their way back up. But like, that's the beauty of the show to me is like, it's filler, and that's the way sports should be in life, for most people. It should be about people first. But sometimes, we all get a little caught up, but yeah, so those are a couple more thoughts I have. And just love the Diamond Dogs, a great addition. And just a great thing. Men just, I mean, listen, men getting together to talk about their feelings and stuff, I think should be more welcomed and allowed. I know we do it. But yeah, it's a thing that I just love and makes me smile when I even think of Diamond Dogs.
Listen, I low-key cheered when Roy sought the Diamond Dogs
oh my god,
at the
it
end of
was
the
great.
season. I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah. And I think like my favorite line from the first season, one of my favorite lines is when like they're meeting, when they have their first meeting. And like, what's like, there's two, like the conversation that Ted has with Roy is the one he's like, oh, what's wrong? And he's like, you just found out your dad's racist. He's like, my dad's in his 60s and he's from South London. Of course he's a little racist. And he makes another joke, like a shape joke. And Roy's like, does my face look like it's in the mood for shape-based jokes? And he's like, no, Roy. But he's like, he's like, in my defense, it hardly ever does. But then you have like, yeah. And then like, and it's funny because like of how like they come full circle is when they're all coming in the room. Roy says he's like, this is my effing nightmare. Like this is like having all these people like talking about my relationship.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a cool addition. And now they're one less member because of good old nasty Nate
the Great. I had some thoughts on. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. No, I was gonna say I know you had a couple more.
I just wanted to run through my thoughts on each of the characters and kind of, how they evolved in season 2. Ted, loved the drama that was added with the anxiety attacks. I thought they portrayed it pretty realistically. And as someone who has had them before, I feel like a personal connection there. So I think they did a really good job with it, not just for drama's sake, but also to add in that it's okay to talk with people about it, because that's the only way you're going to get through it. And on that note, they introduced Doc Sharon, and I didn't think at first I didn't like her. I felt kind of hesitant towards her, like Ted did. And as the season goes on, as with every character on this show, you grew to love her, and it's like, oh man, I'm gonna miss her by the end. Yeah, they do. They absolutely pull you in. So
wonderful send off with her too. Wonderful send off with her. Perfect.
Really was. Ted's story and by proxy Doc Sharon's story. I really like those. Beard, I kind of already talked about. Roy and Keely, I really hope that they make it. I think that they have a beautiful relationship going on, and there's been personal growth for both of the characters. I really hope that they don't split them up, which is kind of, they were hinting at that as Keely, starts her new career towards the end of the season.
I was going to cut in really quick because I know Chris had some thoughts on this one too. I think that's, for me, it's a low point of the show, but I think it's just an underdeveloped point of the show. I think for those two, it seems like they don't know what to do with them, and they kind of strung it out a little bit, like you were saying. So, I mean, obviously I want those two crazy kids to stay together forever. And, but at the same time, it wouldn't be surprised, but it seems like it's, the way it's left, especially because they do 2 jumps at the end in the last episode, it seems like it's hinting at there could be something here where both of them might need to do some growing or find out if this is it or not. Hans, I know you had some thoughts about the relationship.
I'm not like a huge fan of the Roy Keely. Like, I like them together, but I think just in terms of I guess to add a little thing into I agree with Harry's. I feel like they may not have known what to do with them. I think they're going to split them up, and I think Roy's I think they put a lot of attention into the fact that at the photo shoot when they were kind of confessing everything going on. Now you find out the whole Jamie telling Keely he still loved her was a little just him. He said he explained he's funerals bring out I'm not good at them, and I kind of just may have just said that. And I think Roy's gonna I think introducing Phoebe's teacher was a little something. I think Roy's gonna have a little relationship with her, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with. I like her character. I would be all right if Roy ended up with her and not Juno. I'd be okay with that. I think it'd be different. And I think this is it's not outside of the realm of a typical kind of show like this, where they're going to split up the main characters at some point. I feel I don't think they're going to stay together, because you got to add kind of that spice into it. So I think they are going to start season 3 separate. Whether or not to get back together, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think you're going to kind of see Keely in her new job, and Roy's going to either feel neglected and they're going to break up, and he's going to have a go with whatever, I forget her name, but yeah, Phoebe's teacher.
Well, he does have 2 tickets, and teachers do have off in the summer. So
I didn't even put that connection in. So
I'm just shipping it. I'm just shipping it for you, Hans.
That was good.
If you want it to happen, let's let it happen.
See, for me, I have a different outlook on that. I saw, Jamie's revelation to Keely about him still having feelings for her, and then also Phoebe's teacher, that whole interaction with Roy as kind of tests, little bumps in the road for their relationship. And they both got through it. So those are minor bumps. The next one is the big bump, which is, how does he handle this whole vacation setup?
Well, I will say,
I didn't. Oh, go ahead.
No, I will say too, one thing I do love about the show is in most shows you would see them like you said, drag it out for 4 or 5 episodes, where it's is she going to tell him what Jamie said? Is she going to tell him about Nate? Is he going to tell her about the teacher? And it's they cut that out right away and they throw it all out there.
It's a good relationship with healthy communication.
Yeah.
They flat out told each other what happened and they moved on.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I don't know. I have a different outlook on that, but I hope that they pull it together. And Yeah, so that's my take on Roy and Keeley. Jamie Tart, I thought was pretty interesting. You know, we talked about him a little bit earlier, but I really enjoyed the growth that I saw with him and him overcoming his personal not setbacks, but I guess ego would be the right word. And really becoming a team player, you know, once he comes back to AFC.
And I feel like they didn't push him into that love triangle. Like, I think they were hinting at it, and then they didn't make it like just a thing to have him in there more. I felt like this season they really used their shots well. High shooting percentage from them with Jamie Tart as far as using him, like picking good moments to just kind of put him in there without having him have to be a star. Because I think Sam took a little bit of his spotlight from the first season.
For sure. Speaking of Sam, Rebecca and Sam, again, you know, I love this
shipping it. Let's go.
Yeah, shipping it up. Hope they end up back together. You know, it is what it is, but I really enjoyed seeing them together. And, you know, if they don't end up back together, it ended in a decent way. It wasn't like there was fighting or anything like that. You know, it was just a kind of mutual agreement. Well, maybe not so mutual because it was more on Rebecca's end, but Sam agreed to, you know, let it be and go their separate ways. And I also enjoyed the subplot with Sam choosing to stay with AFC Richmond and his whole what was the football club he was being tempted by? Was it Nigeria?
It was Casablanca.
It was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Casablanca. Yeah.
So yeah, I forget the character's name, but it was a billionaire
Edwin
from Ghana.
Afuku.
Edwin Afuku. And he's from Ghana, and he wants to build a team like for Casablanca to make like African football like basically like the next big thing, and he wants to use his money to kind of leverage that. And for those Premier League fans out there, Roman Abramovich for Chelsea Football Club in England, of just basically buying a team and throwing all his money to make it the best club in the Premier League, but in Africa / you know, put it on the world stage per se.
Well, I was really unsure of which way they were going to go with this, but I'm so happy Sam chose to stay because I think he's a great character, and I didn't want to see him, you know, go end up elsewhere. But you guys had some points to talk about with his choice to stay.
Yeah, a lot of props go to Sam Richardson. Like, if you're not familiar with him, he's a very, very funny actor. If you're familiar with anything from like Tim Robinson, I Think You Should Leave. If you haven't seen that is a absolutely hilarious show. It's very sketch comedy oriented. Tim Robinson was a writer on SNL, but then he kind of started doing his own thing. He's in a show called The Detroiters, which with Tim Robinson, which is really funny. And he plays that character so well. That rant that he does after Sam leaves is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And the script on that, like I hope like they need to really put bloopers. They need to put bloopers on like Ted Lasso somewhere.
Yeah,
like there needs to be
extras.
Because like they I don't know how anyone did
one
that.
take,
like,
baby.
And even like Sam had his reaction to it. Like they had to have been like so many, like they probably had to take the one that looked the best because he's laughing through the whole thing where he's kind of just like smiling, like he realizes this guy's like a maniac. And then when he like slow chokes the mannequin, like for like no reason whatsoever, and then poops on it, like it's just it comes so out of left field. Absolutely, because it's like so soft spoken through the whole thing, and that happens. I've probably watched just that scene like 15 times and lost it each time.
And how about his assistant with the handshake too? Oh my god, it was so great, dude.
Yeah, yep. Sam's reaction, he's just like what?
Oh man, I missed out on that handshake.
Yeah. I thought he was a great. I hope he shows back up. I think he might at some point, like as a recurring, like kind of maybe to get back at Sam. But it's just that whole storyline took, like, you would think like being a respectful billionaire is like, yeah, I'll let it slide. I understand. It just on a flip of a switch, this guy turns into a lunatic. Harry, what do you think?
Fantastic scene.
What did I think in regards to the character?
That whole Sam's choice.
Oh, I mean, I would love to, like, I think we've all been in Sam's shoes at once in our life where we're like on a 50-50 for like a majority of a decision, and all of a sudden like we're so justified like right after the decision is made of just like the probably the relief he felt of like, yeah, I made the right decision. Like imagine if he went the other way and like that's what he later found out, and it's like, oh man, I've already committed, I have all these plans. But yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, the Sam and Rebecca stuff. I mean, Sam, I think Sam needs to be who Sam wants to be and grow himself. And I think then he could be, him and Rebecca might be ready for a relationship. But yeah, love Sam, and yeah, that whole scene is hilarious.
One thing I will say that they kind of just dropped was Ted was also going back and forth with Rebecca on banter. And then like once she found Sam, it just kind of cut off.
I don't think they ever confirmed that. I think that was just kind of a lead in to make you think that Ted was going to be like, I think he was just playing on his phone, like maybe like texting his son or something. But I think that was like, I thought when they showed Rebecca on banner and then Ted right after walked through the hallway smiling, I'm like, are they going to ship these people? Which I wouldn't. I hope in the end game, I hope they don't. I thought I like their relationship more as like as friends.
It makes more sense.
Yeah. I'm surprised they haven't like had that conversation where like, they share pretty much everything with each other. And I'm surprised that they haven't tried to do that already. But I think that what makes this such a great show is like, it really comes, it's not really like it's expected, but they're not going to do it. Like they don't
show
do
restraint.
Yeah, which is great. I would love to see her. And, I didn't say with Sam, I think that's a great storyline. I think that's going to evolve a little more as like through season 3. But we'll see. Yeah.
Okay. And then the only other person I wanted to touch on is probably the one who had the biggest change. And that's Nate the Great. I got to say, I was not a fan of the direction of his character. He, as Harry put it, had kind of a heel turn. But I will say, even though I don't like seeing him be the bad guy and, hateful and all that stuff, it is interesting that they threw in the touch of like this deep self-loathing that he has, where like, when he's going out shopping for suits with Keely and like, he gives her a kiss and then she rebuffs him or whatever. He's like looking in the mirror and he just like spits on the mirror because he has that hatred. Like, why did you do this wrong? And you're not that guy. So it's an interesting twist rather than just have him be totally unlikable. But yeah, I don't know. I wish he could have remained as one of the coaches with Richmond. What are your guys' thoughts on Nate's turn here?
I hate him now. But I think a lot of it goes to like Nick Mohammed's performance as Nate. Like, I didn't want him to be, and I loved him in the first season. And actually one of my favorite scenes in the first season is when he's like roasting the team, getting that pregame where he just like lays into all of them, which I think is great. One thing that I did notice that I think actually Nick Mohammed tweeted out about this was like a lot of like, you could see his kind of evolution to what is it, West Ham? He goes to West Ham's soccer,
West Ham United,
like Rupert's team, and you see it like through like of how insecure he feels like with the relationship of his father and his relationship with Ted. And I never noticed this is there's 2 scenes. I think the one scene where before he grills the team in season 1 is the only scene until Nate gives him like basically tells him how he really feels at the end of season 2, where it's just those 2 characters alone, which I didn't notice until I read that, which I think is really cool. But there's a lot, like the show isn't doing things on accident, like, or coincidence. Like this is all well thought out. Like that's like with him, he tweeted like a whole like 20 points. And I actually I love to see how insecure he feels, but I feel like a lot of like what he said to Ted isn't how he feels about Ted. I think it's more about the relationship, and the show has it focuses a lot on relationship between like characters and their fathers. Like that seems to be like most of the characters have like they kind of did some form of backstory with the relationship, and you get that with Nate kind of has his own little episode of like seeing how he is with his dad. And I think a lot of it was like that, like anger wasn't supposed to go towards Ted. I think it was a lot of build up. And I think, he wasn't wrong where Ted kind of made him feel like he was the most important person. And I don't want to say he ignored Nate, but, he has a team to run. Like he can't,
Yeah.
I don't think he could focus all his attention on Nate. And I think Nate kind of felt like ignored, like he feels at his own house or his own family. And I think that's why he kind of took this turn. I think that he's going to get a redemption. I don't think he'll ever end up back. I don't think he'll ever end up back in Richmond. But I think you're going to get a conversation between him and Ted, like depending on how far they go in the series, where, even though they haven't even announced a season 3, which I'm sure they'll do, they led everything up to it.
I think they did some contracts with. I think they did contracts where like there was an announcement of like they signed, the major players for season 3.
Yeah, you said
the Premier League thing, licensing. Yeah,
I think it's leading up already to like a final showdown between like Rupert's team and West Ham and AFC Richmond. Yeah. But I think you're going to get some form of a redemption with Nate. I like how they're taking his character. I don't think it was out of left field where like I think it was done right. I feel like it was maybe a little rushed, and his hair got really gray, like really gray, really quick. Yeah. So props to the wig department. But yeah, Harry, what do you think about Nate?
Yeah, so I love Nate. I love the heel turn by Nate. I'm a big fan of taking expectations of like everybody's Team Lasso and then just having, Nate, for the lack of, for Greg mentioned, spit in the face of Ted Lasso and be like, you're nothing. There's definitely, you see the build of it too. And there's, I wrote this down in our notes of like Ted Lasso is somewhat like Star Wars, and like Nate is turned to the dark side. Like Nate was supposed to be the chosen one, the Wonderkin, the Wonder Kid.
Then he slaughtered that poor Kit Boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, that poor guy, like he really, like I hate how he treated him. I felt so bad for him.
And there's so many moments, where Nate is, the difference between Nate and Jamie with Roy, the way Nate hypes himself up and the way it's, he's talked to by Keely and Rebecca to try to get confidence. And with Keely, about like, this is the way you got to do it. Like there's already a problem there for Nate when it's like, some people just are more reserved and a little quieter. And just his clothes get darker in the season. I mean, obviously, if you watch the last episode, he's wearing a full black suit, but you can start to see kind of the change in that. And if you watch that last episode, just some of the camera angles, where Nate's either in the background or off to the side and he's rolling his eyes and doing all these things. I 100% am fully behind the whole 180 of Nate and Ted and that relationship. I will be interested to see how much focus is on Nate for next season. He, again, just the Star Wars comparisons of like, he's kind of transformed his body. The gray is coming in. He's kind of going Emperor Palpatine. Well, I guess Rupert would be Palpatine and he would be Vader. But like this whole concept of just him, and like there's a coach in the soccer world, Jose Mourinho, who like has very gray hair, and he's kind of like, he calls himself the chosen one, and he's kind of looked at as like this, he plays football different than other, like he puts himself above the game. And I think that's the way, Nate has kind of looked at himself, as he's above whatever they're doing there. I don't need this. I just, what my tactics, my strategy will work. Give me the players to do it. These players aren't built for it. He mentions it, it's just more soccer terms, but 100% love it. Excited to see it. Excited to see the back and forth. Like Chris said, I think there'll be a hyped up moment where, in the Premier League, you got to play the teams twice. So unless you're talking about a cup game or something like that. So there at least is going to be 2 interactions where West Ham has to play AFC Richmond. So very excited to see where that goes. Very invested in Nate's story. I hope we focus more on him because, it's, that's all I got for it. So, yeah. Yeah.
Football is life.
I got a question for you guys. Outside of like the main cast, like and main going from I guess like Keely and Rui to Ted, like necessarily like the main players. Who's your favorite supporting character or side character?
I should have thought about this. Go ahead, Greg.
So I like how blunt Jan is. He's pretty funny in just his random non sequiturs, but I actually like how McAdoo turned around from season 1, where he was a total jerk, into being the team captain and leader and someone with empathy in season 2. So
yeah,
I think
he has a moment.
Yeah, I think I'd probably choose McAdoo.
Okay, what about you, Harry?
Is Higgins a main character?
I only because he was not. For like a supporting character, I would say yes. I would put him as like a main character. Supporting, I would say maybe like most likely. I'd say like you can include like Trent Krim and like the players outside of
Trent
like
Krim, yeah.
outside of like Jamie, Roy.
Gonna miss him from the Independent.
I wonder if there was a little bit something there with him. With maybe he'll do something. But I would love to live in Trent Krim's hair. So yeah, I'm gonna go Trent Krim.
Okay. See, I'd have to go like I was like kind of stuck between this when I was like when I posed the question. I definitely like Isaac's character. I think he's like a phenomenal like hit. Like he was definitely in the background for most of season 1, but I think like once he got his I forgot he was the captain until the episode where they like Roy calls him out on Sky Sports, which is a great side story with him, like his 3 episodes on there where he was doing the sports at the soccer analysis. But I like that, and then him getting his confidence back, and I think he has a couple other moments where he's like cutting Sam's hair. He's like basically the Santa Claus for the locker room, and the last season, I think he definitely is. He isn't just like a. I feel like he's like a tough character, but he's so funny in terms of like when Zero calls out the fact that you can screenshot pictures, and he's like the first to like yell. He's like, "Yo," he's like, "That's copyright infringement, bruv. You can't do that." And it's like what? And then the other one's like Rojas. I think he got like a time to shine in second season. Like he's such a happy character, and I think like he's another one. Like if you watch in the background, like whenever there's a lot going on, like he's a very intense character. Like he always look like whenever like they win or something when they're celebrating, he honestly looks like he's gonna put a hole through a wall. Like he has like a lot of intensity, but then he's also when he's not playing, he's such a like just a gentle person. Like there's like no ill will towards anyone. So
some good picks there.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. Any closing thoughts on Ted Lasso season 1 or 2?
No, I need season 3 like last week.
I know. See, I started watching as season 2 was starting, so like I didn't have to wait, and now it's gonna be like unreal.
Like my favorite meme going around is the fact it's like I think it was a lot of people like saying like they wake up and like it's a picture of the one guy from the sports analysis or where he says like I miss Roy, and that's like been going around where it's just like my feeling when there's no new Ted Lasso.
Well, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I think the show was only originally supposed to be 3 seasons. So I'm interested to see what they do if this is going to be a final season. So I'll be interested to kind of, I guess, keep the promotional eye out on that, on what they're going to end up doing, because that's where sometimes I think shows can get into trouble. It's like if you write something for 3 seasons and you got to start extending it, it's like, is it going to be high quality? Do you have enough? Is it stuff that you just cut because you were focusing on the arc of, being dropped down, having the emotion of getting back up, and then, what's going to happen. So yeah, we're excited, but definitely excited for season 3.
I have to imagine that they'll extend it given the success of
Plus Apple TV. I don't know. My mom loves Apple TV, but
I absolutely adore quality. Apple TV. Apple TV is amazing.
And on top of that, I mean, we're not looking at like a 20 episode season each time. It's only 10, 12 episodes. So I think they can keep the
this season I think was 1 or 2 longer than the last season.
That's why you had like some of those like filler episodes, like the Christmas one and the beard one. But I honestly like I'm glad. I like when shows have an ending. Even though I've mentioned before, like one of my favorite shows, Lost. They kind of dug themselves in that hole where they're like, we're gonna go 4 seasons, and then they had to got renewed for 2 more. Now they're like, now what? So whatever.
Well, if you guys are not watching Ted Lasso, I don't know why you just sat through a spoiler review of it, but
Yeah.
Go out and watch it, please. By
Get
all
on
means.
it.
I
Don't
think out
get
of the
attached
three,
to Nate.
yes, don't get attached to Nate. I think out of the three things we talked about, by far, this is probably the one we would all recommend the most. Correct?
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So that was it as far as that stuff goes. Is there anything else we're watching that we just want to touch on real quick? Hands?
Yeah, I've actually went back. I'm doing a lot of old rewatches, or not rewatches, but watches for the first time. I'm actually probably after we record this going to finish up the second season of Broadchurch. If you have not seen that, that is a fantastic show.
Oh,
with
you're
David
in,
Tennant.
guy.
Dude, I love it. We love it. We're literally on the last episode of season 2. A very good a drama with Olivia Colman and 2 Doctor Who's. I don't think really anyone like David Tennant and Olivia Colman. I think they were the 2 biggest names in it. But great show. I know Greg, me and you have watched Midnight Mass. So we're done that. Harry has not watched it, but without digging too much into spoilers, Mike Flanagan. I feel like he runs Netflix now because he has so much content on there. Very in the league of like Haunting of Hill House, which is my favorite show that Netflix has produced outside of like Ozark. But yeah, I would suggest that. But definitely going back, like I think next after Broadchurch, I'm going to hit up The Wire and see. I have not watched
look
that.
at you.
I know.
Never watched that either.
Going through the Harry hits. I love it.
Yeah. So what about you guys? What do you got?
There.
So I was gonna say I did a couple trips to the movies. Obviously didn't get out for Halloween Kills because I was seeing The Last Duel and Bond, the new Bond film. Great bow on the series. So if you're a fan of any of the other Daniel Craig movies, my next go-to is getting the wife to watch all of them, and then have that. Last Duel, a lot like Kurosawa's Rashomon. It's a story kind of told like that. It takes place in the 1300s. Just kind of this old tale about a woman who basically was assaulted, and her story to try to get out to the world, and how that went back then, and still shines a light on issues we have today. It's kind of a little bit of a downer, but has some moments in it. And Succession just came back. Season 3 just started on Sunday on HBO. Just dropped. Fantastic show. Picks right up where season 2 left off. Not going to jump in any spoilers, but if you haven't seen Succession on HBO, it's an absolute hilarious drama filled time of a family. I guess a rich family trying to deal with the fall of not a fall of an empire, but their father is basically looking to which of the kids he's going to turn the keys over to, and they're all fighting for the attention of that. So 100% would highly recommend the show. Again, if you've seen Lasso or if you've seen Squid Game and you're looking for more recommendations, highly recommend that. By the time you probably finish the first 2 seasons, you'll be right in line with near the end of season 3, because it'll drop. I think it's like 10 episode season. So highly recommend that. And then I know, we'll probably hopefully be talking about it in the next episode, but Dune drops out soon. So if you're looking for a movie to go see, definitely that. Papa, what do you got on your smorgasbord of content?
So as Hans mentioned, I also watched Midnight Mass, and I would recommend that. I thought it was pretty good.
Watch that after you watch Succession, but that's my opinion.
Dude, Succession's 2 seasons. Midnight Mass is like 7 episodes.
Yeah, it's a quick watch.
And you don't need a second season.
Yeah.
Dang. You got
very
me.
Creepy, lots of human drama in it, as well as some supernatural goings on that you find out as the season progresses. But definitely recommend that. But I would say Squid Game is better, so watch that first if you haven't seen Squid Game. That's it as far as you know what, there is one other TV show I watched, which is I say TV show, but The Movies That Made Us just dropped some new episodes on Netflix.
Oh, nice.
Absolutely love that show. Basically, if you haven't seen it, each episode takes one movie, and it's kind of like a whole beginning to end making of the movie, but done very tongue-in-cheek style. They interview cast and crew, there's a little bit of comedy, but it's pretty informative as well. And one of the recent episodes I just watched was on Aliens, the second Alien movie, and very, very interesting. Found out some stuff I didn't know. So I would say check that out if you're a fan. And they do all kinds of stuff. The most recent season mainly focuses on like horror and sci-fi, although they do have a Coming to America episode. But I mean, they do all kinds of movies. They've done, Jurassic Park and Dirty Dancing and just all kinds of stuff. So highly recommend checking that out. And then as far as movies go, just kind of trying to dig my heels in with horror stuff, as it is the month of October. Most recently, I watched the original. Yeah, absolutely. I just watched the original 1931 Dracula starring Bela Lugosi, and then the original Night of the Living Dead from the 60s. So my wife was very disinterested as she walked by seeing me watch black and white movies.
Immediate turn off for my wife as well.
Yeah, but they are classics for a reason. So I recommend doing some Halloween watching of your own and going checking out some spooky movies. But that's it for me. You guys have anything for the peeps, Har?
Yeah, thanks for listening. I hope some of the recommendations we've had here at the end give you some content if you've if you stuck with us and watched a garbage Halloween movie and some quality Netflix and Apple TV content. So hopefully you get something else to throw on your plate. Let us know what you're watching. Give us a shout, and let us know if there's something we're missing or you want us to talk about. We'd love to hear it. Hands.
No, follow me on Twitter as I promote it every week for Sixers updates on Ben Simmons. And
you're gonna live tweet the game tomorrow?
No, I'm probably gonna be too angry.
All right.
We'll see. Who are they playing? New Orleans? Actually,
yeah.
I'll live tweet. Yeah. You're not gonna listen. You're not going to listen to this till Friday, so it won't
Circle
benefit
back.
anyone listening.
Go back and dig up those tweets.
Maybe I'll live tweet on Friday because I probably have a lot more to say on Friday after today's events of Ben Simmons. So Friday's probably going to be a lot more entertaining. But my Twitter, Phila, PHILATTP, for Trust the Process, which I don't anymore. So I might have to change that.
And as for me, just the usual stuff. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. If you're on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. But as always, thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode. And as always, live spicy.
Spicy.